Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden, and today what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about cool flowers. So these are flowers that we're going to be starting or planting out now in the fall, and then come spring and summer we'll have beautiful blooms to harvest. Okay, so I've been growing cool flowers. You're using the cool flower method for quite a few years at this point. And in fact, I've got some of my seedlings out here for you guys to see on some of my cool flowers. And I wanted to touch base because several of y'all have asked, is it too late to start cool flowers? I'm here to tell you that it's not too late to start cool flowers. There are a whole variety of ones that can be started inside like this, where you create the grow the seedlings inside and then get them planted outside. And then there's a whole set that you can direct seed outside now and have beautiful cool flowers for next year. Okay. So cool flowers are known as hardy annuals. They live for 1 year, survive cool temps. They're typically planted in the fall, and then they overwinter and produce blooms the following spring and summer. They prefer growing in cooler temps. So a lot of times these flowers are flowers that actually don't do real well in my summer, which is fine. So like I said, you can go through a couple of different ways. The first one is to start by starting seedlings indoors. Now, we are pretty much past that time at this point in time, but that's okay. I'm going to tell you about the other ones that you can direct sow. But let's just go ahead and touch on the seedlings that I had already started. So earlier this summer, into June, going into July, I started a whole bunch of cool flower seeds. So seedlings that I would plant out in the fall, overwinter, and have blooms on. Typically, you're going to take these seedlings and you're going to plant them out in your fall garden about 6 to 8 weeks prior to your first frost of the season. So I am zone 8. My first frost of the season tends to be mid-November. So the best time for me to start planting is in the next week or so, which is why we're touching base on this video. So all of these you're going to see heading out the door at that time. Now, the ones that I started indoors, Snapdragons, these are all Snapdragon seedlings, doing beautiful. Over here are Lisianthus. I started all these indoors and had really great success with my Lisianthus this year, which are lovely. Ornamental Kale is another really good one. Canterbury bells, which I've grown multiple years. I haven't grown them the last 2 years because a lot of times they take 2 seasons to start blooming. And I also found that while their blooms are absolutely stunning and very unique and original, this cut stems don't last very long in arrangements, but they're very fun. Canterbury bells are also known as bellflowers, which are absolutely beautiful. Delphinium, I've got a ton of Delphinium. Let me grab that. These leaves right here, these are all Delphinium. They're dealing with a little bit of chlorosis, so I need to work with that. These are some forget-me-nots as well. This batch of Delphinium is doing much better. You can see how much more green, but they're doing really, really nice as well. Sweet William is another one that you can start indoors. Pin cushions are Scabiosa, pansies and violas, and I've got tons of pansies and violas down underneath. Let me grab a so you can see. And these are all blooming their little heads off. They're doing beautifully. And I also started Foxglove inside as well. And Foxglove, I just find that you can direct seed it outside, but for me, because it's like dust, it just does better for me inside when I'm starting them inside. I'm trying to look over here. And my Foxglove aren't too far along. They're still pretty small. They really could use some fertilizer, but they're kind of meh. Some of them are starting to take off, but I need to hit these up with fertilizer. But those are some examples of ones that you can start inside. Now, how do I figure all this stuff out? I watch YouTube, I get on the internet and check it out. And I also use this book, Cool Flowers by Lisa Mason Ziegler. And this is just a great, very interesting book to go through. You can look for very specific blooms in here. It tells everything you need to know to start that bloom, whether inside, outside, anything like that. It also has a really great chart at the back, which tells you what zones it's hardy in, if it should be sowed outdoors or indoors. Just really, really great information. It's a great little book. You can order directly through Lisa Mason Ziegler's website, which I believe is called Gardener's Workshop. So you can order directly through that to get the book. They used to have it on Amazon. I don't see it on Amazon as often anymore. And every time I walk into a Half Price Books, I look for it and I never, ever, ever find it. And I think that's because it's such a good book. Nobody ever wants to get rid of it. This is a great book to have regarding cut flowers, cool flowers. And here's the deal regarding cool flowers. Yes, a lot of these I could start from seed in like December and January and then put them out in the spring. But what I'm doing is by starting them and planting them out in the fall, I am allowing them so many additional months to grow beautiful root structures underneath the soil. And those beautiful root structures are going to produce better, higher quality, and potentially more blooms come spring. So it's just kind of a different effect for it. Now, all of these flowers love the cooler weather, so that works great. Now, let's talk about direct seeding. And I am going to be doing a lot of direct seeding this next couple of weeks. So when I say direct seed, I mean just going out to your garden, putting this soil in, or putting the seed into the soil and going from there. So some of them that you can direct sow, cool flowers that can be direct sowed, Bupleurum, which is a really great filler, Larkspur, bachelor's buttons, which larkspur and bachelor's buttons are on my no list for next year. I'm not going to be growing them. Love in a Mist are also known as Nigella. Sweet pea, which I did for the first time last year and decided not to grow it again because it suffered so severely from spider mites. I just don't want to do it again. Ami or Queen Anne's lace, which my Ami and Queen Anne's lace reseeds itself in my garden every year, so I never have to start it myself, which is great. Dill, which dill is something I've struggled with over and over again. I've never had success with dill, and maybe that's because I started too late. Maybe I need to be direct sowing it. I don't have any dill on hand, but maybe I'll pick some up and we'll give it a try. Calendula, which is a beautiful flower, also believe used for medical purposes. Foxglove can be direct sowed, or like I said, I start mine inside. Godetia can be direct sowed. Straw flower, which I don't typically direct sow my straw flower, but we are going to do that this year. In the past, I've started them inside and then planted them out. Bells of Ireland, which I typically start inside and then plant them out, but we're going to try direct sowing this year. Orlea and Icelandic poppies. Now, that's just a few of them. There's just so many more options in cool. I think there's even additional books from this original Cool Flowers book. And Lisa Mason Ziegler on Gardener's Workshop website, she has tons of information. You can take whole classes on cool flowers, which is great too. So let's talk about the direct seeding process and why I think it's actually a little bit harder. It's because typically when I'm going outside to direct seed about 6 to 8 weeks before my first frost of the season, which I said is mid-November. So I'm looking at mid-September to beginning of October for direct seeding. It's still in the 90s and sometimes even triple degree temps at that point in time. So it's really hard for me to really stay on top of it to get these seeds to germinate. Now, I am lucky that I have a drip system set up. So typically, if I'm smart, I will direct seed directly under a drip irrigation area. That means that it gets water every other day because I'm down to every other day now. We're not every day anymore because it's not as hot. And that helps a lot to keep the seeds moist during their germination process. If they are not kept moist, they are not going to germinate. So it's very important to realize that. So let's talk a little bit about the blooms that I am going to get, the seeds I am going to try this year. Okay, so for going ahead and starting outside, I am going to start some kale, some Japanese flowering kale direct sow outside. It's recommended indoor or outdoor for sowing. And I'd like to start some of this outside so that come early spring I can harvest some of these for some flower arrangements. So this is Japanese flowering kale. It's from Baker Creek Seeds. And it takes about 85 days from germination to bloom. It sprouts in about 6 to 9 days, and its ideal temps are 45 degrees to 85 degrees. So that tells you a lot right there. This is a much cooler temperature loving bloom. These are only sowed at 1/4 of an inch deep, and they do require full sun. So those will be really good to get started. The next one I'm going to do is straw flower. And like I said in the past, straw flower, I typically start indoors and then I plant outdoors. And we're going to go ahead and try some direct seeding this year. I think that would be great. Sometimes if we have really cool temps, my straw flower won't make it. A lot of these plants, if they're doing really well and we're going to have some extremely low, anything below like 25 degrees, I will typically go out and cover them. Regarding that, especially if it's going to be those temperatures longer than like an hour or so. But we're going to start the straw flowers out there, and these are typically about 3 to 3.5 feet tall. Kind of a papery pom-pom look to the flowers, excellent for dried flowers. They're fun in arrangements. I just think they're a fun bloom to grow. The plants aren't super attractive looking, but that's okay. It didn't, stress me out or anything like that. They do germination typically about 70 to 75 degrees, and they germinate about 10 to 20 days. So this is going to be fun. I really have to let go to direct seed outside because you don't have as much control as you do direct seeding outside. Like, I feel nervous just talking about all of this. Okay, so next, Bells of Ireland. These are also known as Mollicella. And these ones are from Seed Needs. And I've ordered them from a couple of different places, including Seed Needs, Swallowtail Garden Seeds, a couple of different places. I feel like they're kind of a little bit harder to find. And these, like I said, they're best. This one says best established indoors, but we're going to go ahead and try some outdoors because Lisa Mason Ziegler says you can't. So, and I have absolute trust in her. So we'll give her try outside. They're about 7 to 14 days to germinate, about 30 inches tall and about 12-inch wide. These are very cool, unique, all green blooms, and you do have to be very careful with them because the stems do have thorns on them, so it's super important to remember as well. Everything so far is full sun, just so you know. Okay, next is Godetia, called Grace Salmon, and these are about 75 to 85 days. They're about 18 to 24 inches tall, excellent as a cut flower. They can be direct seeded outside, press gently into the soil, cover with a 1/16 inch of soil, keep soil surface moist until they emerge. Germination is about 5 to 10 days at about 65 to 70 degrees. Next is Bupleurum. This one is called Green Gold. These are about 24 to 36 inches tall, and I really would like to have more success with Bupleurum. Last year I direct seeded some of them and I got a little bit, but then my sweet peas ended up taking over that bed and they got shaded out, and the Bupleurum did not get enough sun, so it did not do as well. These are really good for cut or dried flowers. It's recommended that you direct seed with about 1/4 inch of the soil, making sure that you keep it moist the entire time of germination. They germinate in about 14 to 21 days at about 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So some of these aren't going to germinate until a little bit later because it's still so warm outside, but we will go ahead and get them out before I forget. Okay, and then it looks like I pulled them out even though I thought I had decided not to grow them, and that is sweet peas. So I have 2 varieties of sweet peas. And typically with sweet peas, I like to soak these before getting them started outside. They just do better on germination if they're soaked. And I will say last year I dealt with a lot of, or this year I dealt with a lot of spider mites on them. It was my first time to actually have success, and I had germinated them, I believe, inside and then planted them outside. But I think by just planting them directly outside that I'm going to have stronger plants in the end. And then they'll have a better place to latch on easier than me trying to transplant seedlings, because they really don't like to have their roots disturbed, and they have really long root systems. So this particular variety is Heirloom Sweet Peas Saltwater Taffy Swirls by Renee's Garden. They like full sun, planted at about 1 inch deep, spacing about every 2 to 3 inches, and they germinate in 14 to 28 days and matures to about 6 to 8 feet tall. And then the other one is Renee's Garden Fragrant Street Peas Zinfandel as well. And these are part sun, full sun to part shade, 2 to 3 inches apart, 1 inch deep, germinates in 12 to 28 days, and also a mature height of 6 to 8 inches. So it looks like I am going to give those a try this year. I go and pull all my seeds out, and then I kind of just like leave them out to kind of look at them. So I must have at the time been like, let's go ahead and give these another try. I didn't even harvest any of the sweet peas this last year. They were beautiful for a few weeks before the spider mites got to them. And I loved having them, but never even harvested them because they were so beautiful on the vines. So that is something I need to be a little bit more diligent with this next year. So as we kind of talked about, there is definitely time to go ahead and direct sow some cool flowers. You're not going to be able to necessarily do the Snapdragons, Lisianthus and stuff. You can go ahead and like start these and grow these on, specifically the Lisianthus that take forever. Grow these on now and then plant them out early spring. Snapdragons, I would wait a little bit, maybe start them in January. And y'all know how I am with my seed series. I will show you what I am starting from seed, and I will have a video on it, and I will go step by step, no matter how easy you think it is. I will go through the whole process, showing you all the products I use, showing you how many hours of light these are getting, the soil I'm using, how I'm sowing the seed, the whole thing. And typically that's going to start, I'll typically do a couple of different varieties of seed in December to give me a head start, particularly petunias, and probably geraniums are going to be also what I start this December. And then come January, we will go ahead and start a few more cool flowers that can be planted out in early spring when it's a little bit cooler outside. So there still is a chance to jump on it with the Snapdragons and some of the other ones. I'm just ahead of the ball game, giving them the fall into winter to grow. But like I said, if you're behind, like your Snapdragons, Lisianthus, you can still start those in about mid-winter, get them growing. And as soon as we have a little bit, we're past that last like frost for the winter, then you can go ahead and get those planted outside. Okay, so the next couple of weeks, you will be seeing a lot of me redoing some of my raised beds in the back. I'm going to be maneuvering a lot of things around. One of the big things is moving my current Snapdragon bed. It's no longer going to be a Snapdragon bed. I'm going to move my Snapdragon beds to the other side of the yard, closer to the willow tree, so that they have some shade when we start to get warmer temps, and hopefully I'll get a longer blooming cycle on them because of that. The current Snapdragon bed actually has Lisianthus and zinnias in it right now. It's going to become all Lisianthus throughout the entire bed, which is going to be fun. It'll be really exciting. I have 3 trays of Lisianthus. Lisianthus is doing really, really good for me this year. So I'll be planting a lot of that up. I'm also not far off from starting all of my fall planted ranunculus. We had a lot of success with those by planting them in the fall in my area. So I will be showing that process coming up as well. So if you want to follow along and go ahead and make sure you have your ranunculus corms, you can do that as well. But the next few weeks will be a lot of me getting my cool flowers planted out into the garden, getting them settled. I'm going to be adding compost to all of my garden beds, mixing that in real nicely, and then going back and planting in these plants so that I can have a really successful spring. All right, y'all have been requesting this, and I apologize it took me so long to get it out, but I did want to chat about my viewpoint regarding cool flowers and how I approach cool flowers. Like I said, there's still time. If you have 6 to 8 weeks prior to your first frost, there's still time to go ahead and direct seed some of these outside. If not, you can start these about midwinter and then get them outside once your last frost is past. All right, you all, as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Every time you like and comment, it helps grow my channel so much. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, just drop me an emoji below, letting me know you made it to the end of the video and that you say hi. And be sure to check me out on my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.